Ready to go. Okay, yeah, thank you very much for coming, and it's a great opportunity to do our SmartPLS4 software presentation today at the PLS2022 conference. And in fact, that already became a tradition, because back in 2005, when we had the PLS conference in Barcelona, we used the opportunity to introduce for the very first time the SmartPLS2 software. And those who attended the 2015 conference in Sevilla, that was the point when we just released SmartPLS3 and used also the opportunity to present the new software release at the conference. And yes, since a very short time, SmartPLS4 is there, and we use it now to show you this new software at the PLS2020 conference. And there's a lot of work behind it. Basically, in the last couple of years, at least 5 years, everything was re-engineered, everything was reprogrammed, and the interface looks new. That is the one thing. But also, the software architecture which we use is completely on new grounds. And for you, it will be a little changed, but don't be too scared. We tested it a long, long time, and you know, German software engineering is like we really test things and like to make sure that things are functioning. So you will be safe to use the new software. And secondly, the good news is if you go with an open mind into the new software application, you will hopefully find it very easy to use, very intuitive. And your great takeaway, if you take this effort, is since we put everything on the latest software technology, you will be able to use it for the next couple of years. So when there are new computers with super high resolutions and other technical developments, the new software grounds when we build SmartPLS4 on will cope with it. Some limitations we already could see with SmartPLS3. So high resolution was tricky and other issues, and it came from a technology point of view to some of its end of capabilities, and that's why it was so important to introduce the new software application. And yeah, let's take a look what's in there. Yeah, Michael, are you going to start?
I can start, yeah.
Good.
So I think one of the most common first problems is to get started with a new workspace, or if you have used, and I think most of you have used SmartPLS3 before, the way how you get your existing projects and workspace into SmartPLS4. So one of the things that you should do is, so sometimes when you start, you don't see anything here, and this is now when you have a workspace. What you can do is switch the workspace and select or create another workspace. And what we have done, we usually use the workspaces in the cloud. So we have here some cloud folder where our SmartPLS3 workspace is in. And the thing that doesn't work is to just select the SmartPLS3 workspace. So if you do that, it tells you this folder cannot be used. And the reason for that is, once you have the models in SmartPLS4, you make a change, they are not usable in SmartPLS3 anymore. And we do not want to destroy your SmartPLS3 workspace, and therefore you cannot use the old SmartPLS3 workspace to make it your SmartPLS4 workspace. But what you can do is that you can import the whole thing into SmartPLS4. So instead of doing that, just create a new folder. Just creating a new folder, SmartPLS4. And we also have that in the cloud, so in Dropbox in this case, so that it's always backed up and safe, so that you don't lose your workspace. That's usually a good idea. So then we select this workspace. So now it's empty. And what you can now do is here, if you right-click here into this empty field, you see import project from backup file. Well, don't use the backup file. That's for a single project. Use import projects from a folder. And then you can browse to the location of your SmartPLS3 workspace, just click on this top workspace folder, select this here, this is now in German, Ordner auswählen, so select folder, and then you see all the projects that are within this folder. And of course here then just the two sample models from SmartPLS3, but you probably have many more projects, and then you can select all and import them in one go. Right? So that's how you populate your SmartPLS4 workspace with all your models. But now comes one thing. When you now go into the projects, you will see that the data sets that you have in here, they are red. Red is the same as with SmartPLS3. They are not valid yet. So you need to click on the data set once, and then it opens this change settings, this data settings, and that's actually the same dialog that you would also see if you would import a new data set into SmartPLS4. And the reason why you have to go into this dialog is that we now have some more options of defining the data that you have in your data set. So what we have included is the definition of the scale of a variable, right? So that you can choose between metric, binary, ordinal, and categorical. Binary is only available if you have just two values in this variable, right? And then it's also pre-selected. So you saw that here for service type, that's a variable that has only two values within the variable, and then it's pre-selected as binary, and you can also only select this then, right? Because binary is just two values. But there's also metric, ordinal, categorical, and some of these things will make differences in how the algorithms are calculated later on. So for example, in the PLS algorithm, binary variables will not be standardized anymore, which helps you with interpreting the effect, because standardizing a binary variable complicates the interpretation of the effect of that binary variable, right? And so binary variable SPSS, if you have used the IPM algorithm there, that you need to define the minimum, the theoretical minimum, and the theoretical maximum of the scale, right? This is because in the data set, so the software can only identify the empirical minimum and maximum, right? But if you have a 1 to 7 Likert scale and people have never used the 1, then the software cannot know that 1 is the minimum, but will only identify that 2 is the minimum. And then you have to change this. And this is done now in the data set because it will also apply for some other algorithms like the necessary condition analysis, for example. And then I think are the two most important new things. What you also see here is for some SmartPLS versions, so if you have used your projects in the latest SmartPLS3 software, it should actually find all the settings for groups that you have included in the data set and for missing values. But if you had some older SmartPLS3 models, like if you have used an outdated SmartPLS3 software to save the projects, like we have used here, it will not be able to detect the missing value from those data sets because there are some changes had been done in SmartPLS3, and then you need to redefine the missing values. And it is also done now here with this field, because you see in this data set is this -99 as a missing value marker included, and then you just enter here -99, say apply marker, and it finds 11 missing values, and now you also see that here the minimum scale is detected at 1. So that you can go through these here and see if everything is okay. For example, you see where is it here, or this performance global indicator detects a 3 as the minimum, and you actually want to do this as a 1 probably. So that you have to once go through your data set and make sure that all the settings are correct. And then just say update, and then it will bring you to this data view where you have all these variables in your data set and some additional information about the mean, median, the scale minimum and maximum that you have defined, but also the observed minimum and the observed maximum, standard deviation. So all these descriptives that might be interesting, kurtosis, skewness, and also one non-normality test, which is the Kramer-Van Mises test that we use here for non-normality of a single univariate variable. We have missing values. 11, yeah.
How do you address that?
Well, it says that that you have to find missing values and that 11 are in your data set, right? So now it counts for these minus 99 as a missing value and not as a minus 99 value, right? And then in the algorithms, there are different ways of treating missing values, like mean replacement or case-wise deletion and so on. One other thing that is new is if you would import a data set here, so import the data file, before you could only choose CSV files, right? So if you had Excel files or SPSS statistics data files, you had to save them as CSV. Now you can also import the SAV from SPSS statistics and also from Excel files. That should also be possible. So yeah, those are the most important things of getting your data into SmartPLS4. Christian.
Very good. So Jan Michael did the hard work, and now I can have the fun part, because now we have data in our model and we can start using the software application. And what we would like to do together is simply create a new project. And I'm not super creative when it comes to labels or names. We could call it PLS2022 and or we could also call it simply test. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new project. So I click here on the new project button, and the software asks us, what's the name of your project? So I just call it test. Here we go, and we say create. Next, we need data in the project, and we can either use the import function that Jan Michael just showed, either using Excel, SPSS file, CSV or text files, or what I will do here simply, I copy and paste this resource. So I like to use the corporate reputation data, which we already find in the other project. Select it, right click and say copy resource or Control C. Then I go to the new project and right click and we say paste resource. It's the corporate reputation data and we say create. And after that, we find our data in the new project. I just copied it just to make sure that all the settings are the same, just for double checking. I double click on the data set and we return to the data view. The data view Jan Michael just showed. And if you like to change things with the settings, lowest value on a scale from 1 to 7, you know it's 1 to 7, but it's only 3 to 7 whatsoever. You need to only click here on the setup button, which is here on the top. If you click on setup, you can do the changes, including the minus 99 for the missing values and so on. And you can also export what you see here into an Excel file or CSV file, which is also possible. So the data is fine. We just click on the back button and work with our test project. And self-explaining, what do we need next after we have the data? We need a model. So here's a hyperlink. It says create model, and we just left click on this create model hyperlink. And now the software asks us a couple of questions. First, in which project would you like to create the new model? Yes, in the test project. Secondly, what is the model type? And that's something new. Of course, in each project, we can have now different model types, because SmartPLS4 does not only do PLS, it also does regression analysis, and in the future we plan for more extensions. So that means in your project you can have different models, a PLS model, a regression model, and what's coming up in the future as well. But in this case we would like to showcase certainly a PLS model, and so we select PLS-SEM for the model type, and we give it a name. Well, I just call it test again. So We now created the new test model in the test project. And after creating this model, we automatically get to the modeling view. So when you see a project and double click on a model, you will automatically enter the modeling view as we see it here. But after creating this new model, we automatically switch. And the rest is very straightforward. As you know from SmartPLS 3, you can now easily create a model, and I will start with a simple corporate reputation model. So we like to have customer loyalty as a target construct. I select the 3 customer loyalty items, and after selecting them, I left click on the selection, move it on the modeling window, drop it, and then the software asks us, how would you like to name this construct? It just picks the prefix of our indicators. You see here now customer loyalty underscore, but I would like to have it in capital letters, so I change it and call it CSL customer loyalty and hit enter. And here we are. That's our new construct with the items. What else do we need? We need customer satisfaction as a single item construct. I just move from the indicator on the modeling window, call it CSA, hit enter. Here we are. What else do we need in the simplified corporate reputation model example? We need competence. So here we have competence indicators 1, 2, 3. Call the construct comp. And then finally, likability with 3 indicators. Here we are, and we call it like. So now the orientation is to the bottom. We would like to change this. For this purpose, I click on the construct. And here on the right-hand side, you see toolbar. It dynamically adapts to what you're doing. If you click on the modeling window, there are different options. If you click on a construct, you get more options. And these more options include, for example, where would you like to line the indicators? And I would like to have them on the left-hand side. So I click on this arrow here and see the indicators now on the left-hand side. But you can also apply the shortcuts so that you already know from SmartPLS 3. Alt-A to the left, Alt-D to the right, Alt-W to the top, Alt-S to the bottom when you select a construct. So that works very easily, as you know it. Good. So next thing, and that's new in SmartPLS 4, the orientation of the constructs. I can move them now, and you see here the constructs. I would like to align it to the left-hand side, so it now looks like this. And if I move now likability to the right and left, you see this green vertical bar, and that helps you to align the constructs to each other. And now we do the same thing here with customer satisfaction, customer loyalty. Here we would like to have satisfaction, loyalty in a horizontal orientation, and these green bars, they just appear once it's snapping in, and then you can drop it, and it helps you a lot. You don't need a grid anymore or any other options. It's built in the GUI. Next thing that is also new in SmartPLS 4, the arrows. How do we get the connections now? Before, you had to click somewhere in the menu, draw the arrows, and then you always forgot to switch back to the select button and so on. It's now much easier. Just hit the Alt key on the keyboard, or ALT, Alt key, and click then with the left mouse button on the starting construct. Oops, that's what I wanted to do later. And keep the mouse button pressed and move it on the target construct. Done. Again, hit the Alt key, left click on the starting construct, keep the mouse button pressed, release it on the target construct. Done. And finally, I do it for the last 2 relationships, and we now got our simplified corporate reputation model like this. Again, here the toolbar is quite handy. You can change the colors if you like to. That is one opportunity. Also, when you select the construct and right-click on the construct, you get a menu with several options, similar to SmartPLS 3. And here, for instance, if you like to change, the default orientation is a reflective measurement model. If you like to change it to formative, just select the invert measurement model option, or the shortcut is still Alt-Q, as you know it from SmartPLS 3. So you could invert it if you like from reflective to formative, or using the shortcut, you can do it forth and back. So we changed the colors, and 2 things that are worth mentioning. When I select the construct, we see here many options for changing the construct, and that is on the one hand the color, but we can also change the shape. So some colleagues asked us, can we do rectangles, or can we have hexagons? Yes, that is possible now. We have here the circle symbol, but if you like to have a hexagon, that's easy. You simply can use this option and you get a hexagon in the model. We prefer circles, so I switch back to circles, and we see it in this kind of representation. What else? You can make the border thicker and thinner, you can change the font size, you can use a bold font, and so on. You can underscore things, so all of this is possible. Some new things, that is what you send us in your emails, how to improve SmartPLS. And when we look at the SmartPLS discussion forum or the direct emails we receive, could you have an option where we can put the text somewhere differently in the model? That was not possible in SmartPLS 3, but now it is. As you can see here, customer satisfaction, the label is somehow in the way, but yeah, let's move it somewhere differently. So this looks a little bit better now. Or if you like to have competence here above the construct, we simply move it up. That works as well. Another thing that was already implemented inside of the circle, still not possible. Just the label inside, that is something for the future. But something that was also possible in SmartPLS 3, but nobody used it, is the lines. You can change the relationships and put it like this if you find it better to have it like this way, and that is certainly possible. And then there was always a question, how can I make this, how can I undo the whole thing? So in undoing it, you just double click here on the circle, and after double clicking on the circle, it snaps back into your standard linear relationship.
Can you show again how you did that?
I left click on this relationship here, and then this relationship shows these circles, and here I selected the orange circle and used the orange circle just to create it like this. And maybe we need some green snapping buttons here, lines here as well. So this is something for further improvement, but it is already an option. And then when you double click on this purple circle now, it's snapping back, and then we have it in the original position. So last but not least, I double click here on the construct, and when double clicking on the construct, you get a couple of information. You have the different label options, also which were also available in SmartPLS 3. You may want to use a shortcut for the results tables. That's the caption in the report. But maybe in the model, you would like to have a long name, and the long name would be in this case competence, and you might want to have the abbreviation like this. That's how you would like to have it appear in the model, but this is way too long for the results tables. Your columns get too wide. In the results tables, you would like to have the shortcut, and therefore you just call it comp, as in this example. And reflective measurement, automatic weighting, there are different possibilities. You could choose mode A, mode B, whatever you like. Some scores is possible, certainly as well, or equal weights. And the indicator alignments, certain margins. So if you like to customize the representation and the computations of your construct, all of this is possible and can be adjusted just by a double click on the construct. I think that's so far for the modeling. Let's get some action and some results.
Okay, so next step would be, of course, to run. How do I get there? Here's something in the way. Run the PLS algorithm. So you do this, clicking on calculate again. And you have all these different algorithms that are available for a PLS model. And we just want to do the PLS algorithm. So here's nothing new. Really, the outline is the same. You have here in the data tab, you can select the missing value algorithm. You can select the weighting vector if you have some empirical weights. The thing that is new in this selection is the type of results. So standardized means that you get the normal standardized PLS, but you can also choose unstandardized or mean-centered. In this way, the construct scores will be unstandardized based on the Grunholz scheme. so that you get unstandardized latent variable scores and unstandardized effects. And you can also mean center those unstandardized effects, which is useful for moderation analysis sometimes. So that's also possible now. But let's keep it with standardized, so the normal PLS that we're used to, run the algorithm. And then we are in this view. So now we have the results. We can also move actually the results around, like before with the names of the constructs. And we have this toolbar here. Most of this is actually very similar to SmartPLS 3. So you can choose which results are shown on the constructs, like the R-square or some reliability measures. Let's keep it with the R-square that is shown in here. Within the inner model, path coefficients within the outer model, whether to highlight. This is all the same. The one thing that is new is actually this button here. It says recalculate automatically if you keep your mouse a little bit longer on this. So if you click that, and if you go, for example, to an indicator that you find to be unreliable, that you want to remove, now you remove it, and it automatically recalculates the model, so that you can make changes in the model and automatically get the new results without having to go back and recalculate all this stuff. So we can also just undo this, and it recalculates the model, and we're back in the results that we had before. If you want to go to the detailed model results, well, open report is what you want to do. And this time, this might look a little bit different than what you are used to. This is the detailed model report. In here, we also have, again, the representation of the model. But in this detailed report, we actually cannot make changes, substantial changes. So here we could not delete the indicator. What we can do is kind of like cosmetic changes that would not change the model, like this here. But we cannot make model changes because this is one report. And the nice thing is that we can now save such a report. So if we can, of course, export to Excel and HTML like before, but we can also save it in a native SmartPLS version and save it within the project. So I just say save. I select the test project that we are in, but we could also save it in a different project. And then we choose a name, and the default name is always the name of the project, the name of the algorithm, and then the day of the day. Right? But you can also, of course, change that name. We just found this to be the most useful so that you know what you have done in which project and when. And then you create this, and then you have a new thing here. It's save all this in your project. So this is a new file that you are not used to. This is in pink, and this is a report that you can just open again, and then you're within this report. And then instead of being on the bottom, you now have every of these results on the left-hand side in the tree structure, but it's actually the same structuring of the reports. We have some new additional things, like for the path coefficient, you're used to the matrix, but some people also like to have this as a list. So then you can also see it as a list, and of course, you can see this as a chart. But most of this is actually more or less the same as before. One other new thing that's pretty cool is that you see here that you can create a data file out of a report. And the useful thing about this is that you can store results that exist for every case, right? So for every row, for every observation, like latent variable scores, manifest variable scores, so these are just the variables that you have included in the model. You can store these together with the latent variable scores that we have estimated into a new data file within that project, so that you don't have to copy the latent variable scores from the table, put that into Excel, then put that into a CSV, then import this. Now it's all one click. And you can also include other variables that you have not used in the model. Here are all the other variables. It's It's down here, so that we have not included yet. Those can also be included in a new data file. And then we click create, and when we go back, we see that we now have here a new data file, and this new data file now has also these latent variable scores for competence, satisfaction, loyalty, and likability stored within this data file. So I think these are the most important, not all, but most important new things about the report. And maybe, Christian, you can show us what we can do with these latent variable scores, for example.
Yeah, definitely. So when Jan-Michael says something is cool in SmartPLS, well, it really is cool, because this is the fun part when it comes to higher order models. When you take a look at the SmartPLS discussion forum or the publications, many researchers like to use higher order models, and they had to struggle in the past with the export, import, and so on. And what we now can quickly do is we can expand our test model. And what I'm going to do next now is I take this model here and I simply duplicate it.
That's the data file.
Sorry, I take the test model and I just duplicate it. So here we are. And what's the name now? Test, and I'll give it a self-speaking name. I call it test higher order. So here we are, and we know what we are doing, and say create. So the duplication of our test model is now in the project. I now double click on this model to get to the modeling view, and here we are in the modeling view. So what we would like to do now is, in the corporate reputation model example, you don't see corporate reputation anywhere. Corporate reputation is represented by two constructs, namely competence and likability. And the effects from competence and likability directly go into satisfaction and loyalty. So, but now we could become very crazy and think, wow, we could do a higher order construct, namely having corporate reputation as the higher order construct and likability and competence as the lower order constructs. And this is actually what we would like to do. And what Jan-Michael just did is he estimated the basic model. And what we are applying, in fact, is the disjoint two-stage approach. So we link the lower order constructs, in this case, likability and competence, directly with the target constructs, estimate the results, save the latent variable scores, and in stage 2, we now use the latent variable scores of competence and likability in the measurement model of the new construct, corporate reputation, and that's what we are going to demonstrate. So I delete simply these lower order constructs. They are not needed in the second stage anymore. But what I would like to add is a new construct with the latent variables. And then you screen here and look at your data set, and the latent variables are missing. And don't worry, don't get scared, don't write a support message, the data set is not functioning. No. What you see here, and that's important, when you're in the modeling window, in this green box here, in this green box, you see actually which data set you're using. And the data set, which we now selected, is still the old data set without the latent variable scores. So what we need to do is we need to switch to the newly generated data set, and this can be done by select data set. So after clicking on this button, the software asks us, these are the two data sets in our project, which data set would you like to use? And we now use the new data set that Jan-Michael just created. And luckily, after switching the data set, the latent variable scores are there. And we would like to create our higher order construct, corporate reputation, with the lower order constructs, competence and likability. So I select these two variables, move them on our model, here we are, and I call it, I take the abbreviation REPU for reputation, and here we are. Looks a little bit ugly, I just select the construct, hit Alt-A, so it's now oriented to the left-hand side, and the names don't look too nice, we use LV as a prefix so that we know what indicators we are using. But you can go to this indicator now, rename it, and what I do is I simply take the first part off, and we know it's the latent variable scores of competence, hit enter, done, and we do here the same for likability, rename the long name with the LV scores, we know that these are the LV scores, and simply call it like. So here we are.
And maybe important to say it's just renamed here, but it's not renamed in the data set. So you're not changing the data set, but you're just making the model look nicer.
Definitely, yeah, that's a good point. And in the results report,
there you see the new
short version, which is very useful, because then you don't need to have the right columns. Yeah, and the rest is straightforward. Hit the Alt key from the starting construct, move the arrow to the target construct, and we also had the relationship to customer loyalty. And here we are. So now we have our higher order construct with a second stage. We can quickly calculate the results and say that's the PLS-SEM algorithm and compute the outcomes. And here we now see these relationships. And there are two things now we would like to do. First, we're going to show you a new extension, namely comparison of results. And afterwards, I will finalize the higher order model analysis with a significance testing via bootstrapping. So the first step is something that might be interesting to us. Of course, we had the simple model with the direct effect of the lower order constructs to satisfaction and loyalty, and now we have the higher order construct. So let us compare these outcomes now. And what we do is we open this results report. So now we are in the results report of our higher order model. And this is one of the new functions in SmartPLS 4. Here's a new button in the toolbar when we are in the results view, that is compare. And after selecting compare, SmartPLS asks us with which results would you like to compare your results. And previously we saved our PLS-SEM results of the simple model. So we now can select the saved results report and use this as a comparison. And what is happening now is we see these two models. On the left-hand side, our corporate reputation model as a higher order construct, and on the left-hand side, we see the simple model. I zoom a little bit out here so that we see the same model, and that is just the model perspective. And what is also nice, since we have the PLS results on both sides, we can now check this synchronized navigation box. So if we tick this box, what happens is, if we now select different details here, that is on the left-hand side, select details, what kind of results would you like to see? And we might be interested in, let's say, the R-square values. So I select R-square values, and what is happening? We now go on the left-hand side to the results table for the R-square values, and after ticking the synchronized box, it will automatically display the same table, the same results table for the model we use for comparison. And this might be interesting just to find out where, what is the level of R-square in our higher order model compared to the simple model. And you could do the same with all kinds of other results and get an overview. How would a change of the model affect the final results? So this is something new which could be useful, especially when you work with alternative models and you would like to see, for example, model fit. You have the model fit for the one model, you have the model fit for the other model, even though we're not so much in the model fit direction, since we rather like to stress the predictive capabilities. But what you can now see is that the original model has, when it comes to the SRMR, a better fit compared to the higher order model, and the same holds for the NFI. So in this case, when it comes to model fit, we would probably stick with the simple model we previously had. So I now go back, I leave the results perspective and also go back to our higher order model. And that is the last step I announced to do significance testing. And that means a new algorithm. And for this purpose, we click on calculate and we select bootstrapping. And as you are used from SmartPLS 3, our dialog opens with the default settings, and you can choose the number of subsamples, the more the better, parallel processing to use many of your cores except one that stays idle for the computations, percentile bootstrapping, two-tile test. You select the significance level, and that's new, a fixed seed. What does a fixed seed mean? Well, with a fixed seed, we now can ensure if you select this option and you run bootstrapping over and over and over again, you get the same results in SmartPLS because it's a random procedure. And in SmartPLS 3, we didn't have fixed seeds. So that meant when you run bootstrapping, one time, even though you had many subsamples, there was always a slight difference because it was a random-based procedure. But now you can choose this option here, you have fixed seeds or random seeds. When you use fixed seeds, it initializes the random number data generator in the same way so that you, even though it's still a random procedure, you get the same results. So this might be useful, and this is for the hardcore user something that will hopefully amaze you. I now select 10,000 subsamples and click on start and just check the speed. Done. So that is much faster than it used to be in the past versions. We had this speed with 100 subsamples or 200. Now we can do it with 10,000, and you can basically use many subsamples to get your significance result. And the rest is straightforward. We see the results now, but these zeros are not the path coefficients. As we can see here in the bar above, for the inner value, we show the p-value. So thereby we can right away assess the significance, and then we open the report. We can take a look here at the final results, and what we will get is for the path coefficients. For instance, I go to the path coefficients, we get the mean value, standard deviation, t-values and p-values, but also that's here in the second table. After unfolding the results available for path coefficients, we also get the confidence intervals, and that's what we recommend to report in your PLS-SEM results, to report the bootstrap confidence intervals when it comes to significant testing. Yeah, you can save this results again as the default report in SmartPLS, what Jan Michael just showed, or as an Excel file or HTML file as you have been used to. So let's stop here, and I just go back to the workspace, and Jan Michael takes over.
Yeah, so one other thing that has been changed is the way we use moderation in SmartPLS. But before we get to this, maybe one more thing. If you are new to SmartPLS 4, what's also handy is that we now have this large set of sample projects. So we have expanded the number of sample projects that you can use, not only the corporate reputation model, but also for other different things. And what I want to do now is to install the advanced analysis project, which is based on the corporate reputation model data. But here we have showcased some of these advanced analysis. And one of these is also moderation. So I go to the moderation model. And what we have done here is we have built this simple model with the moderation. But before getting to this, you also see in these sample projects that we have some explanation here, right? Some detailed explanation. And this is based on the comments that you can add to a model. So these comments had also been possible in SmartPLS 3. But now, when you do this, you can actually write markup language. So you can enhance these with bold and different styles. So you can use a lot of different markup syntax. So here we explain what's possible under this link. And you can also add images to this. You can add links. So you can have something like, when we go back, just let me briefly show this, in the primer. You can actually have here a link to your paper, to the book with an image, whatever you like. So you can really tailor these comments to explain models to your students or to co-authors, or if you make the data set publicly available with your paper for people to replicate or something like this, this is really handy. But now about the moderation. So what you see here is that moderation looks quite different than before. So in SmartPLS 3, we had been adding a moderating effect by clicking on moderating effect and then adding this to the dependent variable, right? If you now click here on moderating effect, you actually cannot do much, but you just get an instruction what to do. And what you should do is you include the moderator construct. So in this case, we have been using switching cost, so perceived switching cost, as a moderator for the relationship between likability and customer loyalty. And we just model this as in our conceptual models. Right? So we say switching cost is a moderator for this relationship, and therefore, I'll just delete this. So, how do I get this relationship? Select. So if you have this moderator now in your model, you do this like you did before, like drawing arrow out, and then you can draw. And then you see that you cannot only put the line onto constructs, but also onto other lines, right? And this way you now have this interaction effect, this moderating effect of switching cost on this relationship between likability and customer loyalty. And what we actually do in the background is we ensure that the model is valid, because what you need in a moderating model is not only the interaction term included in the model, but you also need to have the direct effect of the moderator on the dependent variable. And even though that's not shown here, it will be directly included. So you can also draw this. This would be the same, but you can also just leave it out for parsimony, but then it's also included. We will see that once we run the PLS algorithm. Right, we get here the interaction effect. So that's the effect of the interaction coefficient. But when we go into the report, to the path coefficients, we also see that here an effect of switching cost on customer loyalty is included in the model, because that's necessary for the correct estimation, right? You cannot omit this, and then the model would be incorrect. And when we go back, we also see that this gives the same results as if you include this. So here you have it, the same finding. So some people like to have it included because it's part of their model development. Others don't like it, so you can have it both ways now in SmartPLS 4. But I think this is the nice thing, that you now can model it as in your conceptual model and don't have to make it like the statistical model that's much easier to show and to present to others. And what's also new is, let's go back, that you can have, and I don't know if the title of this project, of this model is really good, multiple interaction, meaning that you can higher level interactions, that you can three-way interactions, four-way interactions, that you can build interactions on interactions effects. So we have been testing this until 20 level interactions. I don't know. That's probably impossible to interpret. Already four-way interactions are almost impossible to interpret. Most people struggle with three-way interactions, but some people use three-way interaction, and probably also correct. So you can do it. You can do much more. So you can do crazy things with it, and it's just the same logic as before. You can omit also all these lower things. They will be included as necessary. So you could model it this way. This would be a four-way interaction. And if you estimate this, you will see that it now has a long list of interaction terms, because all these are necessary to estimate a correct four-way interaction. but what you will see is the interesting things in your structure model. One thing that I want to show, and for which I will go back to this here, is if you're in the PLS-SEM results, you're probably used to these simple slope things that we also reported in SmartPLS3 to better interpret these interactions. But what's now also possible is to actually customize all these charts. So all charts that you have can now be customized. So you can click here and customize the chart. You can include and exclude some of these lines. So if you're not interested in them, you can include grid lines, the zero line. You can relabel the axis. You can show tick marks or not. So you can really redesign all these things. You can redesign the colors, the line width, whatever you like. And you can also save these. So apply these as factory settings. So if you change something and you want this to be changed for all these types of graphs, you can save this. Or if you have done that and it's ugly, actually, you can also go back to the global defaults. So if you have messed around and you don't want to redo everything, you can just go back to the global defaults, and then the global is applied again.
What to zoom in the intersection?
I just repeat the question for the Zoom users. So the question was, can we zoom in the figure closer to the interaction?
No, that's not possible. At the moment. But I don't know. But for what do you need that? I mean,
in order to show more illustrative potential interaction, because sometimes it's very close.
But I mean, but the idea of the simple slope is that you showcase like +1 standard deviation and -1 standard deviation, right? And if you just zoom into one part of the model, then you're not showcasing everything. So then you're not having this analysis anymore. Of course, you can copy the chart in kind of like high resolution and then zoom in your Word document. If you just want to kind of like cut out a specific part, you could do that. But
yes, it's in this case target standardized, but it's possible to create an standardized.
So you want to have +2 or what? No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but this would be possible if you use the algorithm with the unstandardized results. In that case, it may look different to what we are looking at. Yeah.
It might be interesting to consider if zooming in or not is something that...
Definitely, this is good for the extension, especially when it comes to the IPMA. You all know the IPMA chart. You can add the average for the horizontal, for the vertical line. All of this is possible, and here maybe the scale adjustment might make sense to just focus on some areas. But this is an area for discussion, and definitely good in the SmartPLS discussion forum, requested features. So I will see your post there.
Yeah, this would be the IPMA, how it is shown in these graphs. Okay.
Good.
So I think that was what I wanted to show. Yeah, as the new things. I don't know if you have more things to add, Christian.
I will. I will also show some other new stuff. And for this purpose, we just go back to our test model. And here is. I just pulled those.
There's a question.
Go ahead, Nick.
The first one is, how do I get Q-squared results?
Nick asks, how do I get Q-square results?
What kind of Q-square?
Yeah. So let me show you. So we go to the simple model, and there is the quadratic effect option in the menu. So we select
do you mean
this.
that, or do you mean predict?
Predict.
Okay, that's okay. Then we go back to select, and in order to get the PLS predict results, you simply select calculate, and here's the PLS predict algorithm. The options are limited number of folds and number of repetitions. Fixed seed, that is also new and useful for this analysis, and you can simply run it And after running PLS predict, we get under open report now a new representation of the results, and the new representation shows you the Q-square predict results, the PLS-SEM results for the RMSE, the MAE, and in comparison, the linear model outcomes. And color is used. It's in green when the PLS results are advantageous compared to the linear model benchmark. It's red when the linear model benchmark beats the PLS-SEM results. And that is a question we receive quite often. Where's blindfolding? I want to show blindfolding Q-square results. We need to disappoint you. Blindfolding is not anymore available in SmartPLS 4 because it's not an out-of-sample predictive power assessment method, and PLS predict is in these regards superior. And people are asking for so many more functions. At some point, we need to take functions out. And in this case, blindfolding is not useful, so we took it out to keep the software simple and useful. So let's, there's one question, there's the second one.
Can we access the data report object that you saved earlier with all the results of the construct scores and the, can you access it externally, or is it only readable by SmartPLS 4?
So the second question was our results report, which is saved in SmartPLS, can you open it externally? No, that's only available inside SmartPLS, which means when you did all your analysis and open SmartPLS in a week or so, you can just access your old analysis results. If you like to open the results reports externally, you would use the export to Excel or export to HTML function, and then you get what you need to make it available for other software applications like your web browser or Microsoft Excel. Okay, so let's take a look at some other new stuff. We return to our test model. I unfolded, and we have here our data sets, and that's also the data set with the latent variable scores. And what I'm going to do now is, let's create a regression model. So I click here on regression, and the question is, to which model would you like to add a regression model? So I select test, model type regression, and yes, we can simply call it regression. Here we are, save. Okay, so now we get back to the modeling window, but this is not PLS-SEM model, it's simply a linear regression. And what we can do now is we can use our latent variable scores. So we use loyalty as the dependent variable in a linear regression model, and we could use competence, customer satisfaction, and likability as independent variables, and that's how we could create our linear regression model. Again, for the entire model, you can change the colors if you like, and after clicking calculate, regression analysis, you have to make 3 choices. First, would you like to have a two-tailed or a one-tailed test type, the significance level, and the standard error type. We use the default settings, start the calculation, and what we see here as a result are the standardized coefficients of the linear regression model. You can also take a look at the unstandardized coefficients, the coefficients with a p-value and whatever you like to have displayed in the model. When we open the report, you get the standard outcomes. If you follow linear regression in the multivariate textbook by Joe Hare, or in the methods textbook by Marco Saarstedt, they have a linear regression chapter, and this standard evaluation criteria, you find everything you need here in the results report. The summary of coefficients, ANOVA, unstandardized and standardized coefficients, you get the R-square value, collinearity statistic, residuals, the values, descriptives, QQ plots, residual histograms, and the autocorrelation plot. So all of the standard assessment criteria needed for a linear regression, they are provided relatively quickly by SmartPLS, and that is another extension we have here. Also, what is definitely super hot lately, the necessary condition analysis. And the necessary condition analysis is a particularly neat technique which becomes popular, not only to check if your relationships are significant, but also if they are necessary. And this could be the case that something is not significant. That is what all the researchers do. It's not significant, I delete it. But this might not be good, because from a theoretical perspective, you hypothesize these relationships. Why would you delete them? And here, the necessary condition analysis can provide you additional support that this relationship, even though it's not significant, it's relevant for the outcome, it's necessary. So this is one of the big topics, and in the regression analysis model type, we also included the necessary condition analysis. Here you can run the NCA, and you can need to do your default settings, start the calculation, and these are the NCA effect sizes. And when we open the report, you get, when you're a little bit familiar with the NCA analysis, you find these bottleneck tables, which are needed to interpret the results, and also the NCA charts. So the NCA charts mean the larger this blank area here on the left upper side, the more the necessity of a construct to explain another construct, or like in the linear regression, in this linear relationship. So bottom line is, if you like to run the necessary condition analysis in PLS-SEM, run the model, save the latent variable scores, create a linear regression model, and use the latent variable scores for the partial regressions in your PLS-SEM structural model, and you can simply apply the same kind of interpretation as Jan Dull and his co-authors provided with the NCA. And here you get also the effect size of the NCA by running an NCA permutation, and doing this for 5,000 permutations real quick now. We also get in the results report the effect sizes and their different significance. Here are the p-values, and we can now determine whether a certain effect size is also significant or not. So if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the regression analysis, there's also a nice sample project. Here, regression, just click on install, and you will find the linear regression model from the textbook by Joe Hare with the original data in the textbook. You can run it one by one as explained in the textbook, or the concise guide by Mark Rosage, that it's exactly the same data set and the same results as used in the textbook. So if you like to double check, does SmartPLS provide the correct results, you will find that the output here exactly matches the results as printed in those textbooks. So that was one of the extensions we like to address. Are you going to go ahead?
We're already over time, right?
Yeah, just 5 minutes.
Let's open up for some questions. I don't know.
To finalize it, what we also have installed and in place, just to give you a very quick view on this, we have endogeneity assessment using Gaussian copulas. That's very simple, like the quadratic effects. You can add these relationships. You can also add Gaussian copulas to the model, do the significance assessment, and when it comes to the path analysis, and having not the linear regression, but a linear regression with multiple dependent variables. So that's the path analysis. We can offer the process tool. And in the process tool, what we are doing is we don't even have like these single item constructs. You can also use multiple items for a construct, but that's not important. They're just summed up. So the results will be different from PLS-SEM, where we use the linear combination of the indicator data and the outer weights. In process, it's simply summed up. That's it, and that's why the results may differ. Of course, the computations are changed, and in this process, we can run all types of path analysis with moderation, mediation, moderated mediation, and so on. So all of this is possible, and if you like to take a look at a sample model, just click on process, install, and here we have already 2 examples in place which you can directly run and test out for yourself. So that is a little wrap up on the additional methodologies, and you will discover much more, but just to get familiar with a new graphical user interface and some of the key features you will probably find out by yourself just playing with the software. What much more is there to discover? So shall we open it up for questions? Yeah.
When do we get the key?
The question was, when do we get the key? We already sent it to all conference participants. So you already have the key. Yes, yes.
I don't want to use swear words. I'm blown away by the speed of the processing. Like, it's just, I don't even know how you're doing it. How are you doing that? Does it work on a Linux and a Mac machine as well?
Yes, it's as fast, and if you use an M2 processor on a Mac, it's even faster. So,
is it because of the matrix math library? Sorry.
Yeah.
So let me quickly repeat the question for the Zoom participants. So Nick asked about the speed. How is this magic possible?
Yeah, we improved the math behind it, the library usage. We much more efficiently use the data in the background and the calculations to transform and invert and all those things, matrices like before. There we had used a very old...
Are you secretly doing it in the background before I click the button?
No. It starts on the press end.
Nick, Java is used also for machine learning, and you can use huge data sets. So Java is actually really efficient, much more efficient than R. But we used in SmartPLS 3, we used the outdated libraries that we used in SmartPLS 2. So they were basically from 2005, and so they were not the best. And now we have used much better processing of the background data and how we run the transformations. And we're using, for most of the algorithms, multi-core processors. So if you have a single core processor, then it might not be as fast as on Christian's 4-core processor laptop, but still it's much faster than before. And if you run the Physics algorithm, you will also be blown away by the speed.
I'm just starting it. So Physics users, you had to sit and wait. I just take like 5 segments here. And in the past, when you ran Physics, you had to sit and wait. And what we like to do is, Physics results, we like to run it 10 times. Of course, we like to ensure that we come close to the global optimum. And then you have to run it, wait, run it, wait, run it, wait, and then to select the best solution. Now we run all 10 computations in parallel, and SmartPLS automatically picks the best out of the 10 results. And you could see, like for 5 segments, that was super quick, and Physics PLS will be much more easily accessible for you in the future. And we definitely hope to see many more of those Physics analysis, because that's important to ensure the validity of your results, to address unobserved heterogeneity.
Can you just click on open report, please?
The question was open report, please, which I do. And we get now all the results for the different segments if we like to do, and we can click through these tables, and we can also take a look at the original coefficients.
They're actually results, it's not fake.
We get the segment sizes and the final assignment of the probabilities of membership.
And here also the saving, yeah, it's also
That use it for
multi-group.
PLS plus or micro.
Yeah, or for multi-group analysis. Yeah.
So all of this is there.
You might look at the questions in the chat.
Made available to us.
We take a look at the questions in the chat, but you go ahead with your question.
Will the recording be made available to us?
Yes.
Okay.
I also have them here.
Okay.
For my question, I just want to know if there is already written a step-by-step guide. The primer battery system was very helpful for us. Now the question, how do we go? How do we follow the SmartPLS 4? Is there any written step-by-step guide?
Oh yes. So the question was, when you now switch to SmartPLS 4, how to get an easy access. And our recommendation is go on YouTube, and we already have the links On the SmartPLS webpage, James Gaskin created a fantastic series of SmartPLS 4 teaching videos and forward as well. And the forward videos are also great, and you find the direct links. Take whatever you like. They show you step by step how to import data, how to create your first model, and you will find a series of videos. And depending on what you like better, forward or James Gaskin, take the video channel on SmartPLS 4 that they offer on YouTube. So that would be an easy access.
Yeah, and in the chat was also just a question whether the recording is made available. So.
Yes, the recording will be made available. Anything else? Okay. So this was a long day. Thank you very much, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the conference. Should we stop the recording?
Yeah.